Metasploit has long been one of the most widely used tools by information security professionals and hackers. Today, we're going to cover everything you need to know about Metasploit. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned pro, I will guide you from the basics to advanced techniques. After watching this video, you won't need to ask about Metasploit again. To my wonderful subscribers, I'm truly sorry for my inconsistency. I've been busy creating a course for you all, and I'm trying to make it as good as possible. No more wasting time, let's fucking get into it. Before we dive in, let's briefly cover the history of Metasploit. Metasploit was created by H.D. Moore in October 23 while he was working at a security firm. He wanted a flexible and maintainable framework for developing exploits, so he released the first Perl-based version with 11 exploits. In April 2004, with the help of Spoonum, Metasploit 2.0 was released, featuring 19 exploits and over 27 payloads. Matt Miller or Scape joined the team, and the tool quickly became essential for penetration testing. Metasploit 3.0, a complete rewrite in Ruby, was released in 2017 after 18 months of work, introducing over 150,000 lines of new code. This version gained widespread adoption and increased user contributions. In 2009, Rapid7 acquired Metasploit, allowing for faster development and the release of two commercial products, Metasploit Express and Metasploit Pro. These versions offer additional features like a GUI, reporting, and collaboration tools. Okay, now I realize I forgot to explain what Metasploit is. Many of you probably clicked on this video already knowing about Metasploit, but just in case you don't. In short, Metasploit is a powerful framework used for developing, testing, and executing exploits against various software vulnerabilities. It's a crucial tool for hackers, penetration testers, and security professionals to identify and address security flaws in systems. Metasploit consists of tools, libraries, modules, and user interfaces. At its core, it functions as a module launcher, enabling users to configure and deploy exploit modules against target systems. If an exploit succeeds, the payload is executed on the target, providing the user with a shell to interact with it. Metasploit offers hundreds of exploits and numerous payload options, making it an indispensable tool for security testing and exploitation. Installing Metasploit is straightforward, especially if you're using Linux. In fact, on many Linux distributions, like Kali Linux, you don't need to install it at all. Here's how you can get started. Open your terminal. Update your Kali Linux with this command. Launch Metasploit by typing MSF console. That's it. We've successfully opened MSF console from the terminal. However, there are several other ways to access the Metasploit framework. These include MSF GUI, MSF CLI, MSF Web, Metasploit Pro, and Armitage. For our purposes in this video, we'll be focusing on using MSF console. If you want to install Metasploit on Windows or another operating system, you can visit their website for detailed installation guides. If you run into any issues, feel free to ask for help in the comments. Alright, now let's explore the Metasploit directory together. Follow these steps to get started. First, if you don't remember or don't know where the Metasploit directory is, you can find it by typing. Locate Metasploit. Once you've got the directory path, copy it. Then navigate to it by typing cd, then paste the directory path. To see the list of files, type ls. You'll notice a bunch of directories and scripts. The key directories are data, external, tools, plugins, and scripts. Let's take a look at each one. Start by exploring the data directory. cd data. Then ls. Here, you'll find various helper modules like Meterpreter, exploits, word lists, templates, and more. Next, let's check out the Meterpreter directory. cd Meterpreter. Then, ls. In this directory, you'll see important files. Here's a quick rundown of what some of these are. This is a staged payload for ARM 64-bit on macOS, delivered in parts. This executable is for the Meterpreter service on Windows, providing an interactive shell and post-exploitation features. This is the server component for Meterpreter, which helps in communication between the compromised machine and the attacker. This folder contains Python scripts or modules. This is similar to the ARM version. This is a staged payload for 64-bit macOS, where the initial stage sets up the environment and fetches the main payload. Alright, let's keep exploring the Metasploit directory. First, let's go back to the data directory and check out the word lists folder. Here's how. Navigate back to the data directory. Enter the word lists directory. cd word lists. This directory contains lists of usernames and passwords for different services like HTTP, Oracle, Postgres, VNC, SNMP, and more. Next, let's explore the exploits directory. cd exploits. Here, you'll find a variety of files and directories related to different security exploits that Metasploit can use. Each file or directory often includes a CVE or common vulnerabilities and exposures identifier, which tells you which specific vulnerability it targets. For example, you might see files like CVE 27 3D 314 DAT, CVE 2012 17723 jar, or CVE 2019 185 on 13. These contain the necessary code or data to exploit a particular vulnerability. These resources are essential for Metasploit's ability to test and exploit vulnerabilities during security assessments. When Metasploit runs an exploit, it uses these files to carry out the attack. By understanding these directories and their contents, you'll have a better grasp of how Metasploit operates and can effectively use it in your security assessments. Now that we've covered a lot in the data directory, let's head back to the main Metasploit Framework directory and explore some other important directories. Alright, we're in the Metasploit Framework directory. Let's check out the modules directory, which is crucial and holds various functionalities. cd modules. Okay, here are all modules. Let's see them each directory. Let's start with exploit directory. cd exploit then. ls. Here, you'll find a list of exploit modules categorized based on operating systems. For instance, let's focus on Windows exploit modules. cd Windows. Then, ls. Within the Windows directory, you'll see numerous exploit modules categorized by Windows services like FTP, SMB, Telnet, browser, email, and more. For example, let's explore the FTP directory as an illustration. cd FTP. ls. You'll find a list of FTP service exploits, typically in the form of Ruby scripts. To view the code of any exploit, you can use the cat command followed by the exploit name. Okay, this allows us to delve into different types of exploits according to operating systems and their respective services. It's a crucial part of understanding how Metasploit operates and enables us to effectively assess and exploit vulnerabilities. Let's continue our exploration by checking out auxiliary modules. Navigate back to the modules directory. Okay, then enter the auxiliary directory by typing cd auxiliary. Auxiliary modules are essentially exploits without payloads. They serve various tasks such as port scanning, fingerprinting, service scanning, and more. There are different types of auxiliary modules, including scanners for protocols, network protocol fuzzers, port scanner modules, wireless modules, denial of service modules, server modules, administrative access exploits, and more. Let's take a look at the available auxiliary modules. Here, you'll see a list of auxiliary modules such as admin, client, fuzzers, scanner, spoof, and more. Now, let's dive into the scanner directory as an example. Within the scanner directory, you'll find modules categorized based on service scans. For instance, let's explore the FTP scanner module. Here, you'll see 3 Ruby scripts related to FTP scanning. To view the Ruby code of any module, use the cat command followed by the module name. This allows us to examine the inner workings of different auxiliary modules, gain insights into their functionalities, and effectively utilize them for various security tasks within Metasploit. Let's delve into the Payloads directory within the modules directory. Before diving into the Payloads directory, it's essential to understand what payloads are. A payload is a piece of software that runs after a system is compromised, typically attached to and delivered with an exploit. In Metasploit, there are 4 types of payloads. Adapters. These payloads can adapt or modify their behavior based on the characteristics of the target system, potentially including evasion or bypass capabilities. Singles. Standalone payloads like shellcodes, reverse shells, command execution payloads, etc. Stagers. Focuses on setting up the environment for subsequent payload delivery. Stages. Larger payloads delivered after the stager, offering advanced functionalities like Meterpreter for post-exploitation activities, file transfer capabilities, and more. Now, let's navigate to the Payloads directory within the Modules directory to explore these payload types further. For example, let's see Single directory. CD singles. Here, payloads are categorized based on operating systems like Windows, Linux, etc. Let's focus on the Windows directory to demonstrate how these payloads work. CD Windows. As we discussed earlier, single payloads are self-contained for specific tasks like creating a user account, binding a shell, and more. Let's take the Windows Add User payload as an example. To view the code of this payload, use the cat command followed by the payload name. Cat add user, RB. This command will display the Ruby code for the Windows Add User payload, allowing us to understand how it functions and what actions it performs when executed. By exploring these payloads, we gain insights into their functionalities and how they can be utilized in security assessments, penetration testing, and hacking activities. Stagers play a critical role in establishing the initial connection between the attacker and the victim machine. For example, when injecting a Meterpreter payload, the process is split into 2 parts. The smaller stager payload creates the network connection, and then the larger stage payload is delivered to perform advanced actions on the victim machine. By exploring these payloads, we gain insights into their functionalities and how they contribute to exploiting vulnerabilities and gaining control over target systems during security assessments and ethical hacking activities. Alright, let's dive into some key directories in Metasploit besides the one we just talked about. Check out the scripts directory inside Metasploit. It's packed with tons of scripts that Metasploit relies on. Then there's the tools directory. You'll find all sorts of tools here that help with exploitation. Lastly, there's the plugins directory. This one's super useful because it's where you can add in third-party tools like Nessus, Nexpose, and Nmap plugins to work seamlessly with Metasploit. Okay, now that I've explained these directories, can you do me a favor? Open up your Kali Linux, then head to the Metasploit directory and check out all these files. Okay, let's dive into the nitty-gritty. We're starting with basic exploitation in this section, where we'll talk about what exploitation really means. Exploitation is all about breaking into a computer system. It's like figuring out the weak spots and using them to get in. To do this, you need to understand vulnerabilities and payloads really well. An exploit is basically a clever piece of code. You write it, compile it, which means turning it into a form the computer can understand, and then run it on a system you want to break into. It takes advantage of known weaknesses, like a service that's not secure or badly written code. In this section, we're going to cover how to find systems that are vulnerable, and then how to use exploits to get into them. Let's understand how hacking works. The attacker sends a code called an exploit and a payload to a weak system. First, the exploit tries to break in. If it succeeds, it activates the payload. Once the payload is running, the attacker can do whatever they want on that system, like stealing data or adding harmful stuff like viruses. Okay, the first step in hacking into a system is scanning its IP address. This helps us find open ports, the operating system, and services running on it. Next, we look for a weak spot in one of those services. We search Metasploit for an exploit that matches that weakness. If we can't find one in Metasploit, We check other websites like securitofocus.com or exploitdb.com. Okay, let's get started with simple exploitation. We are going to see the basic exploitation just copying and pasting code into Windows terminal. To exploit a system by copying and pasting code into a Windows terminal, we often target a vulnerability in a service on the machine. We can use Metasploit to generate a payload that can be executed directly from the Windows command prompt or PowerShell. I'll guide you through this process. First, use Metasploit to create a payload for PowerShell. Type this command. Let me explain this command. MSF Venom is Metasploit's tool for generating payloads. P specifies the payload. This payload creates a reverse TCP connection to the attacker's machine and spawns a Meterpreter shell. Windows 64 indicates the payload is for a 64-bit Windows operating system. lhost is the IP address of the attacker's machine or your Kali Linux machine that will receive the reverse connection. lport is the port on the attacker's machine that will listen for the reverse connection. F specifies the output format. PSHCMD generates a payload as a PowerShell command that can be run directly in the Windows command line. Okay, now just hit enter. It will give this command. Before executing the payload on the target machine, you need to set up a listener on your Kali Linux machine using Metasploit. Let's just open another tab and open Metasploit. Setting up the listener is a crucial step in the exploitation process. It involves configuring Metasploit to wait for and handle the incoming connection from the target machine once the payload is executed. Here's a detailed explanation of how to set up the listener. Use the multi-handler module. The multi-handler module is a generic payload handler used to receive connections from payloads. Load this module by typing. So this command tells Metasploit to use the multi-handler module. You need to configure the multi-handler to use the same payload that was generated with MSF Venom. Since you created a Windows 64 Meterpreter reverse TCP payload, you should set the same payload in the handler. Okay, now let's check what we need. Type. Show options. You need to set the local host or lhost and local port or lport to match the values you used when generating the payload. This ensures that the listener will be listening on the correct IP address and port for incoming connections. Start the listener by running the exploit or run command. This command puts the handler into listening mode, waiting for the target machine to execute the payload and establish a connection back to your Kali machine. Now, our handler will wait for a connection on the specified IP address and port. You'll see output like this. When the target machine runs the generated PowerShell command, it will try to connect back to your Kali machine on the specified IP and port. Alright, now we're ready to exploit. Copy the command. Go to your target Windows machine, open the terminal, and paste it there. Then, go back to your Kali Linux and check if it worked. Once the connection is established, you will see output indicating that a session has been opened. We now have an active Meterpreter session. Now that we've successfully exploited our target, you can do whatever you want. You just need to know a few PowerShell commands. Now for that reason, let's learn some Meterpreter basics. Meterpreter is a powerful tool in the Metasploit Framework, used after exploiting a vulnerable system. It uses a technique called in-memory DLL injection, which injects code into a running process without writing any files to the disk. This makes it very stealthy. When we use Meterpreter as a payload, we get a shell on the compromised system. Meterpreter's unique attack vector attaches itself to an active process in memory, avoiding detection by antivirus and intrusion detection systems. Communication between the client and server uses an encrypted format called type length value. In this format, type indicates the kind of field, length shows the size of the field, and value contains the actual data. Meterpreter is highly effective, allowing us to acquire password hashes, run a keylogger, and escalate privileges. It can also switch between different processes it's attached to, staying hidden by clinging to running applications on the compromised host. Alright, let's dive into what Meterpreter can do. Type help to get a list of commands and see all the tools we have at our disposal. Now, let's kick things off by checking out some details about the victim's system. Type sysinfo to get info like their computer name and operating system. Next up, let's get a visual on what's happening on their screen. Just type screenshot and it'll snap a pic of their desktop. Check the path to find where the screenshot is saved. Great, it worked like a charm. Curious about what processes are running? Type PS to list them out. Moving on to some serious hacking action, let's fire up a keylogger. Type keyscan start and it'll start logging keystrokes. Want to see what we captured? Type keyscan dump to check out the keystrokes we snagged. Look at that, we caught some juicy stuff. To stop the keylogger, type keyscan stop. And hey, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We can do even more cool tricks like taking photos and exploring further into the system. And don't forget, we can move, delete, create, and edit files on our target machine. For example, if we want to get a list of all files, we can type dir. If we want to download a file from the target machine to our own, we type download file name. This command will download the specified file to our machine. If we want to send a file to the target machine, we use upload file name. This will upload the specified file to the target machine. You can do whatever you want. Just type help to see all the commands available and explore the possibilities. Check out what you can do and try them out. Now let's explore what else we can do with Metasploit, starting with information gathering. Information gathering involves collecting data about a target using various techniques. This process is divided into two steps, footprinting and scanning. A lot of information is publicly available about an organization through its website, business news, job portals, and even disgruntled employees. During this phase, a malicious user can find domain names, remote access info, network architecture, public IP addresses, and much more. Let's dive into hands-on information gathering using Metasploit. Suppose we're the attackers and we have a domain we want to exploit. Our first step is to gather all possible information about that domain for our malicious purposes. One of the best methods for this is using Whois. It's widely used to query databases that store details about registered users of internet resources like domain names and IP addresses. To do this, type Whois, then domain name. For example, let's use Facebook's domain name. You'll see a lot of information related to the Facebook domain, which can be very useful for further exploitation. Okay, now let's use Metasploit to gather more information. Metasploit has many auxiliary scanners that are very useful for tasks like email harvesting. Email harvesting helps us collect email IDs associated with a particular domain. To use the email collector auxiliary module, type use auxiliary gather search email collector. Next, let's see the available options by typing show options. You'll see that the domain and app file fields are blank. We need to set the domain address. To do this, type set domain name. You can also specify an out file to store the generated email list. Now, let's run the auxiliary module. It will show the results. In my case, I got 0 results, but when you scan, you might get some email addresses. Now let us move on to some active information gathering for exploiting our victim. Another useful auxiliary scanner is the Telnet version scanner. To use this, type use auxiliary scanner Telnet version. Next, type show options. To see the available options, you'll see that the rhosts option will empty for you. We need to set the target IP address for scanning the Telnet version. To do this, type set rhosts, then target IP address. If the other R port is empty, fill it with port 23. After setting your target IP address, just type run. In my case, the scan returned no results because my target's port 23 is closed. If your target has port 23 open, you will see the Telnet version of the machine. Let me remind you, I could make my device vulnerable and show you the results, but the point here is to teach you how to use Metasploit, so don't be upset with my scanning results. Okay, now you might be wondering, what is Telnet? Telnet is a network protocol used to provide a command line interface for communication with remote devices. It allows users to log into another computer over a network and control it as if they were physically present. However, Telnet is not secure because it transmits data in plain text, making it susceptible to interception and attacks. This is why it's important to scan for Telnet vulnerabilities and understand their potential risks. Now that you know how to use these tools in Metasploit, you can continue exploring and practicing with different modules and techniques to enhance your penetration testing skills. I can't finish by showing you all the modules and auxiliary tools, but by now, you should have a good idea of how to use Metasploit to scan. To keep practicing your scanning skills, go to the Metasploit Framework GitHub page. I'll put the link in the description. Specifically, check out the Scanner tab. You'll see a bunch of different things to scan. Just find what you're interested in, click on it, read the details, and you're good to go. And for more information, you can check out this website too. Let me tell you one thing. I've just given you an overview of Metasploit. There are so many things you can do with it, but I hope you now understand how to use it. If you have any questions about Metasploit, don't hesitate to ask. If you want to learn more about networking, check this out.